Released in 2010 after 3 years of development on a special new game engine to create never-before-seen water physics, this is Hydrophobia. Oh, were you expecting something called Hydrophobia to have more water gameplay? Hang on.
Buddy, stop! Swim!
There you go. Oh, you meant like something cool, like water powers or something with special physics. I got you. Okay, that's enough. That's all you need. Please buy our sequel later. Good idea. Welcome to Abandoned Save, where I highlight the good, not legendary games of the past. Today, I want to take a look at another download-only title from the Xbox 360 that I always wanted to be better than it actually was, Hydrophobia. This one has a really interesting story to it because it was received so negatively, it was not only remade, but they remade it twice. So how on earth does that even happen? Before we take a look at the game, the original version, called Hydrophobia Part 1, was released exclusively to Xbox Live Arcade in 2010 by Dark Energy Digital. They spent several years working on the game, including making their own engine called the HydroEngine to have realistic water physics that were simulated in real time so that the experience was never the same. This was all done by a company that had a history of making, billiards and snooker games. I'm sure that was an easy transition. Spoiler, it wasn't. In December the year it was released, there was an update called Hydrophobia Pure that retooled a lot of the game's content in response to the feedback, and that's the version we'll be taking a look at first, because I don't even know if it's possible to play the unpatched version anymore. As we go through it, I'll go over some of the key changes that they made, and you might also notice that I didn't call it Part 1 this time, but we'll get to that too. The game starts off with what I think was supposed to be a flashback of the main character's past, maybe surviving a drowning experience or something, but I'm not really sure what it is, and the game is not going to explain it. Then we head over to the present day, where our main character, Kate Wilson, is watching news coverage of the Queen of the World's 10th anniversary celebrations. This is a giant ship that she works on as an engineer, and the rich live lavishly on in the wake of a massive worldwide flood called the Global Population Flood, while all the poors struggle to survive. I'm pretty sure this game can't see the future, and I hope not. A company called NanoCell that operates on the ship is set to make an announcement to help the people of the world, but then there's a power issue and we gain control. Kate contacts her boss Scoot, voiced by a Welsh man named Nathan Ariane, to see what's going on.
Scoot? I might get the wrong idea if you keep calling me when you're off duty, Miss Wilson.
She goes to check out the issue even though it's supposed to be her day off, and we get to see Scoot for a brief second. Not exactly how I pictured that voice, but for some reason I was picturing Simon Pegg. I don't know, I blame movies. On the elevator to go check on whatever, a bomb goes off and we go into freefall. Somehow, Kate is just fine after that and calls out to Jenny.
Jenny? Who's Jenny?
Yeah, that's a good question, Scoot, because that will never, ever come up again, so I don't know either. Luckily, Kate moonlights as a rock climber or something because she parkours right out of the elevator and climbs out to safety. Her security access has also been reset because someone's hacked the system as well, and the officer in charge of the area is unfortunately dead. Save the world, kill yourself. Doesn't get more edgy than that. There was also a bomb in that room, so we have to jump around and hack a terminal to get out. The hacking is similar to other games like Batman Arkham, where you use the sticks to match the frequency and amplitude of the waves to pass. I like that system, it's actually pretty fun, and it's nice and quick. Moving on, more explosions are happening throughout the ship as Scoot helps Kate navigate, and water starts to flood into the hallways. It may not look that impressive now, but they actually did build this engine from the ground up to handle the water physics, and it's a completely simulated process. It's not manufactured as a set piece, and it's never exactly the same on replay. This was very impressive for 2010. You have to swim to escape, and I kid you not, one of the changes in the Pure version was adding in the oxygen meter on the bottom of the screen. Yeah, the original version didn't have it, in a game all about dealing with water. The swimming was also tank controls. I have no idea how that shit made it into the final game. And while we're on that, jumping was mapped to Y instead of A at first.
Hell, the man upstairs looks like you.
Oh, and what a graceful dismount. We look to the judges and 10s across the board. Eventually we run into Chief Billingham, who's kind of a dickhead, but we have to get him out because he's trapped in his office. This introduces you to one of the main mechanics of the game, other than dealing with the ever-changing water levels and jumping around: finding ciphers left by the bad guys to open previously locked doors. Originally, this iPad was the only way to get objective markers, so you'd have to pull it out constantly to figure out where you were supposed to go. There's an option at the beginning of the game to play the whole thing like that still, so if you're absolutely fucking crazy, you can go ahead and do that. There's a brief scene showing some guys run through with guns and then this dialogue afterwards.
Hang on, Kate. I found out who these lunatics are. They call themselves the Neo-Malthusians.
How the hell did he figure that out exactly? The name Neo-Malthusians comes from Thomas Malthus, an economist from the 18th century that predicted that population growth would outpace global food production. So that's where their little Hot Topic slogan came from. We returned to the chief and used the upgrade we'd picked up to remotely open a door behind him with absolutely no warning for him that had enough water behind it to put out the fires in there and give him a way out. The chief continues to be a jerk about everything, although we did kind of soak him, so I can kind of understand. We hack his console, and he tells Kate to head to the shuttle plaza to escape, while he goes off to look for a weapon to fight back. He is the ultimate dude, bro. Fighting the water physics to move forward is actually pretty cool and shows some of what the game engine they created could do, but it's a shame they didn't take more advantage of it, because for the most part, the only way you can interact with the water is things like this. The elevator is encrypted and the passcode is in the loading bays, so we're going to have to head off there to continue our escape. And look at this surfacing animation. It's perfect. Then at the top, Kate finds a gun! Yeah, this isn't just a water game. Of course we have to have guns. And it shoots sonic rounds that can do things like break open glass to raise the water level or cut electric wires so that you can safely get around them, which is a puzzle that is not really that obvious and killed me multiple times. Why would you be able to do that with a gun? We end up in a minor shootout to get the next pass key too, and learn that the sonic rounds are also good for killing. And this rock climbing engineer is also a crack shot. She's like the poorest version of Isaac Clarke ever conceived. Since the water level is dynamic, fights like this can happen in waist deep water, underwater, or without any water buildup at all, which is pretty interesting, but not enough to make this game as replayable as they probably thought it would be. Eventually, we end up hacking the CCTV and see this impassioned speech.
The end of righteousness is everlasting life, but the wages of sin are death. Those whose minds are not suited to a purer state of existence should perish and be condemned to mix again with their original clay.
Fuck, you did it, girl! You saved him! Good luck, wee man!
Why the hell did Scoot call him that? Going back to the gun controls in another firefight, originally it was RB to draw the gun and RT to shoot, instead of the much more natural and established LT and RT. In an interview with GamingNexus.com, the joint design director Pete Jones said about the controls that a de facto standard had evolved and that changing established controls needs to be an evolution, not revolution. Yeah, maybe just use the triggers on the controller for their intended purpose, Pete. After a couple more firefights, we shut off some gas, causing some trouble, and Scoot gives us some fanfare. Are they allowed to do that? Nobody tell Nintendo. Another section just ahead requires you to hack a camera to find a door that has water behind it and open it remotely to put out some fires to advance. This idea is pretty cool actually, kind of reminded me of Watch Dogs a bit, but it's something that rarely happens throughout the game. While crawling through a vent to move on, we run into some gel rounds for the gun, which basically allows you to shoot out remote explosives, once again reminding me of Batman Arkham with the explosive gel. It's cool here too, but it's still strange that there's so much combat in this water-focused game. And thanks guys for the background art while I hacked this. They attack again right after you get through there, and for the first time in this playthrough, we have some underwater combat. Since the water levels are dynamic, it could have happened earlier, but I can't believe how dedicated these guys are to their kill everyone cause. Who would be so devout that they would keep shooting at someone and chase them around underwater in a sinking ship? They're probably gonna die anyway, it's insane. And now, for the first time in the entire game, almost an hour in, you actually have to manipulate the water level by shooting some panels to raise it in order to advance. I can't believe it took that long to get here, to the point where it took me a while to figure it out because I didn't even expect that to happen.
Power to the port engines has been cut by 52%, but our friends in the loading bay haven't budged.
Damn, this man is European as fuck. If you're curious how good the climbing controls are, by the way, about this good. Also, it does this the whole time you have the pause menu open. Thanks, devs. We really needed that. Now, let's clear these boxes out of the way of the... Oh, shit! Yeah, probably should have seen that coming, but it's fine. Didn't even hurt that bad. Plus, now we have real bullets. As if that really even makes much of a difference, but sure, why not? While moving forward and fighting some more Malthusians, Scoot tells us that he has some men breathing down his neck, but he doesn't want to leave his post until he helps Kate escape. This is the most noble manager anyone has ever had, though he does eventually have to get out of there, and Kate is now on her own for the final act of the story. Oh yeah, this game is only like 2 hours long, by the way. And it crashed here because the Xbox 360 was really not made to handle physics this complex. If you haven't been able to tell from the footage, the frame rate struggles to stay at a consistent level in the more water physics heavy areas, but I'm honestly impressed that they even got all this to work on it. After hacking a terminal, we intercept a message saying that the Malthusians are set to blow up D-Sal, which is the part of the ship where Scoot is, so then the rescue mission is now on. Also, the gun's a machine gun now. Rapid fire bullets, don't question it. The descent animation is just as good as the surfacing one, and eventually we end up in an elevator watching a screen where the chief is being held captive.
Go to hell!
Did she eat him? What the hell was that? Are we supposed to know who Mila even is? This is the first time she's been shown. Unless she was in some data logs or something that I didn't read. The story is such a mess. We've now made our way to the shuttle plaza where we can make our escape and see signs for things like Eat Stop that I think are funny as hell because there is no way the rich people on this boat are going to eat generic Subway. Not going to happen. There's a huge firefight going on here as this is where most of the Malthusians are, and fighting through them eventually has us climbing this thing, whatever it is, as it falls apart as pretty much the only set piece in the game, and we continue our search for Scoot. We hack something for some reason that's not explained, and walk back out only to get attacked in a cutscene where Chief Billingham comes back from the dead to save Kate. Look out, Kate, he's a zombie! She tells him they need to save Scoot, some water pours out, and then credits. Yeah, that's it. Like I said earlier, this was originally released as Hydrophobia Part 1, and the story was planned to be told in 3 parts as downloadable titles, and then released as a full retail game with the full 3 parts on it after that. But what about those water powers I showed for like 2 seconds in the intro? Well, after you beat the story, you get access to the challenge room where you can use the water powers to fight bad guys and set a high score on the online leaderboards. Yep, that's the only time they show up in the game, with absolutely no explanation. And all you can do is raise one section of the water, and if an enemy or explosive is in it, you'll auto-target them so you can take them out. If you're planning to do a multi-part game, you need to hook the audience in the first part. You can't leave the main draw of the game out of it completely, except for a post-story challenge mode. It is absolutely baffling that they did this. But this was all on the Xbox platform, and I said it was remade twice, with this reworked control scheme version being the first attempt. The game was still getting harsh reviews even after all the welcome changes made in the Pure version, and so, a year after its original release, when the Xbox exclusivity ended and Hydrophobia came to PS3 and Steam, they got the newly remade Hydrophobia Prophecy. I'm not going to go through the whole thing again, as it's mostly a reworked version of the original game, but let's take a look at Prophecy and see what all they changed. To start, Kate got a slight redesign, and holy shit, they colonized Scoot.
The party of the century is happening on your doorstep and you're staying at home.
Apparently, people found the original voice actor difficult to understand, though I didn't really have that problem. Oh my god, they put him on Ozempic too. What was wrong with fat and heavily British Scoot? This is an outrage! They also gave him a bunch of new lines about different things throughout the game, but they didn't record much new dialogue for Kate in those places, so when that happens, she just doesn't react to it at all.
Big Bad Billingham needs an engineer to come to his rescue. This is priceless. Oh, I can't wait to see the look on G.I. Joe's face when he's rescued. Hey, Kate. How does it go? Now I know what a TV dinner feels like.
It's incredible. There's a few new cutscenes as well, and I noticed that the subtitles don't work for a vast majority of those, so fuck you, hearing impaired. The game has been heavily altered to remove a lot of sections that are completely unnecessary for the plot and don't have any interesting gameplay. It also helps with the issue of people getting lost, which was a huge problem on the original release. There's also this wanted poster for Mila early on, which helps a little bit to set up the surprise reveal of her betrayal of the ship towards the end of the game. They also removed the animation that happens when you open doors that were encrypted with the ciphers you find. I'm not sure why, I thought that was totally fine, but it does make the game faster, though I'm not so sure that's a good thing, but I'll get to that later. After rescuing Billingham, Mila shows up to actually explain what the hell the story is this time. She says what the Malthusians are doing and why briefly before disappearing again. That wonderful surfacing animation is still there though. Mila then shows up again at the end of Act 1 talking about how she wants to stop NanoCell, the company that was briefly mentioned at the start of the original game. They've also added some stuff to play with the water physics a little more and do something other than just shoot enemies, like here, where you open a door to get a passkey, and then shoot some electric panels in order to turn off some electricity so you can move on. You also get the alternate ammo much earlier. At least Meathead Scoot still likes Zelda. Later on, there's a video from the leader of NanoCell talking to Mila about how there's a device capable of deactivating the nanobots they've created, and that without the failsafes they have in place, the nanobots will seek out any means of fuel, including seawater or even blood, making them very dangerous. There is an antidote that she's stolen, but it's only effective for a limited time.
Oh god, Kate, that's it.
Nanomachine, son!
They actually learned that it might be a good idea to make use of their fancy water physics too, as they added this section where you need to move some floating barrels under a tank until they raise it out of your way. It's baby's first water puzzle, but it's better than the none at all in the original version. There's a new cutscene to go with the new NanoCell storyline that shows some more Malthusians trying to take some nanobots off the ship and accidentally coating themselves in it and dying. Then the bridge above that breaks where it didn't before, and Kate falls into the nanomachine-infested water. This is the new end of Act 2. You have to get some emergency pills from one of the scientists' bodies to suppress the effects, so no powers yet, but now we have to take down Mila since she's the only one that has the antidote. Scoot still has to take off at this point to avoid getting himself killed, and we go through Act 3 alone again. This is almost completely new and reworked though, because at this point they knew Part 2 and 3 were never coming out, and they needed to wrap up the story in one go. You hit a point where you have to get another dose of the pills to survive, and while it's not directly in front of you like it was the first time, it's pretty damn close. They also then repeat their floating barrel puzzle that they were apparently very proud of to get into the shuttle plaza, where you have to get pills right in front of you again for the final time. That mechanic really didn't add much, but there it is. The shuttle plaza plays out pretty much exactly the same, but this time instead of getting saved by Billingham and do a cliffhanger ending, we follow Mila into the NanoCell labs and Kate's water controlling powers activate. Finally, something unique. You only have that boring ability to raise the water in a designated area like before, but you can also throw things you pick up now, like explosive barrels or enemies. The controls are very jank though, and a lot of the time Kate doesn't want to switch into powers mode, which can be really frustrating. You only fight through the labs for like 3 minutes anyways, until Mila confronts you with a robot that requires you to shoot a weak spot with the energy ammo, and then use the water powers to throw an explosive barrel into it. Once you figure that out, it starts sending enemies after you while you do it to try and shake it up, but the fight just repeats that loop. It's nice that there's a boss fight and it's at least somewhat difficult, but wow does this feel tacked on. Which is probably because it was. When Mila's robot is defeated, she gets electrocuted and dies, and then Kate injects herself with the antidote. Cut to credits again. Still not a very satisfying ending, but I guess it actually is one, so that's new. Coming in at $15 originally, $10 with the Pure update, and $5 currently on Steam, Hydrophobia was never really priced very competitively, considering I beat both versions in under 2 hours each. I can understand the desire to remake something you've made, especially if it's received poorly, but doing it twice just to even get an ending is actually hilarious. The designer I talked about before, Pete Jones, said, "Criticism can be hard. You make games because you love games. Perhaps on occasions we may have seemed a little too defensive and disappointed. Pride can be a big virtue as well, because you need to be intensely proud of something you've created in any endeavor." And I agree with everything he's saying, but you have to know when to cut your losses too. All of the extra time and money spent trying to fix Hydrophobia was probably done because of the sunk costs on the HydroEngine and writing that they had already done for the full 3 parts. But doing that eventually got Dark Energy Digital shut down, as they were too deep in costs from the game. It's also really strange that the Prophecy version, which, contained the ending, was only released on PS3 and Steam. You can still buy Hydrophobia on any Xbox fully backwards compatible, but it's the fucked up version I started the video with that ends on a cliffhanger. You think they would have gone back to make all versions equal, but no. We only do things that don't make any sense here. It's a shame that something better didn't come out of this, because I love games that try something new, have you climb around, and I was all for the water powers Kate was gonna get. And the game still isn't that bad, and if it were longer, I would even say it might be worth a playthrough on the cheap, but with all the cutting they did to streamline the game, it ended up just as short as the original version despite all the additions. At least the PC version actually runs well. This is one of the earliest games I can think of on consoles to try an episodic release as a download-only experience, and I wonder if the failure of both it and Sonic 4 caused other devs to shy away from the idea until we eventually got the Telltale games to try again and do it better. Ultimately, Hydrophobia had some potential, but instead of using the new tools they created, they were too interested in rushing out a half-baked Part 1 that wasn't satisfying on its own and wasn't bold enough to play with those fancy water physics that they worked so hard on. These days, low-budget and indie games like this are mostly focusing on multiplayer or tighter gameplay experiences, but the idea of an episodic release that becomes a full retail release once it's complete doesn't seem like a bad one to me, and with game prices increasing, it might be the time for someone else to give that a shot. I hope we can see something cool come out of the ideas that Hydrophobia left behind, and maybe we have already that I'm not aware of. But for now, make sure to like and subscribe if you liked the video. I'm Abandoned Save, and I'll see you in the next one.